All right, welcome to episode 4 of a Jam Sesh podcast. I'm Kyle, and today I will be the only host. The other two are working. I am joined by Trae King of Blame the Season and Torei. Trae, if you could introduce yourself and explain your roles in both groups.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Kyle. I really appreciate that. So again, like you said, my name is Trae. I am one of the parts of the brain of a band called Blame the Season. We're a metal band. And I also am the sole member of I don't want to say group, but it's just my facade, my alter ego of something called Torei, which is my outlet for compositional songwriting. So Torei is like my baby, like I do everything in that. And then Blame the Season, I collaborate with another guy named Michael, who's the guitar player, if we ever play anything live, but I am the vocalist whenever we do anything live, but I still do, songwriting, production, all that stuff. So that's kind of the gist of the musical outlets that I'm a part of right now.
Nice. So you mentioned ever potentially playing something live. Have y'all actually played live shows in the past when y'all, I guess, were a larger group?
Oh, Blame the Season,
Blame the
definitely.
Season.
Not Torei. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Torei is well, we could talk about that later, but Blame the Season, when we first started, wait, believe it or not, we've actually been a band since like 2010. And the original inspiration, the original motivation, the reason for getting together was, hey, I just want to be cool. I just want to write music with my friends. And that kind of evolved as we developed an actual set list, and, what songs to play. And then it became, hey, what can we play to get our friends in the mosh pit and stuff like that. But also, how do we keep our integrity,
Mhm.
So we kind of lean towards a blend of progressive metal and beatdown, because that's kind of what was popular as we were, getting more songs. And it was around like 2011, 2012, 2013 when those sounds were getting a little more popular, and metalcore was kind of like sunsetting, I would say.
Mhm.
People were like, it's not cool anymore. Although some of those songwriting tropes still kind of remained. So we did play live. We looked towards bands like Periphery, As Hell Retreats, Volumes, Tesseract, After the Burial, those guys, but also towards groups like Sovereign Strength, My Children, My Bride, The Great Commission, In the Midst of Lions, For Today, August Burns Red, those guys. So those were our inspirations. That's what we looked towards when we were like, hey, what do we want to look like? What do we want to sound like? But we did, in fact, play live shows. Our last live show must have been in 2014, I think, when I was on break from James Madison University.
Okay.
And it was like our last show. We didn't know it was going to be our last show. We just had enough members quit at that point after that show that it was like, hey, we can't do live shows unless we get more members. And then it just kind of dwindled. And then, we went on hiatus for like 7 years, but we did used to play, and I miss it very much. It was quite the thing to be screaming on stage to a bunch of people looking at you like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah, I'm sure. So, y'all's first album, that was released in 2013, was Interconnect, right?
That's correct.
So, I guess I know you mentioned like what inspired y'all's sound, but was there like, I guess, any was there a concept to that album maybe, or I guess any specific inspiration to like maybe some songs in that?
Yeah. Interconnect is fascinating, man. It was basically, think about some of those bands and some of those sounds that I was mentioning before. It was basically a snapshot of that. It was a snapshot of sounds that we thought were popular at the time. And the next thing I'm about to say, I don't want it to come off negatively, but that album is a mess, dude. It's an absolute mess. It's a mess of sounds and ideas, breakdowns, choruses, and it's just all over the place. And I think it's actually a fair representation of what our maturity level was when it came to music, which is, I think it's charming to some degree, but it's also very revealing. It was a very fun first album that basically, set the stage for what was possible for us once we fine-tuned our musicianship and songwriting skills and technique and playing. But like I said before, we took a break for 7 years, so who knows what what a subsequent spiritual successor would have been to Interconnect. Interconnect 2, who knows what that would have sounded like. But that was Interconnect. It was a mess, for lack of a from more sophisticated term, but it was a very fun mess that we're very proud of.
Oh yeah, I definitely like the sound. Like it makes sense because like you were saying was kind of like a lot of like the sounds all like combined into one, and that's kind of what I felt listening to it. Because I know like we talked before about like what kind of bands I thought sounded like there's meshes of periphery, like you said. I definitely get volume sounds. I definitely hear that in there. I definitely hear like after the burial, even things I thought sounded like maybe some reflections like the fantasy effect album, stuff like that, a lot in there. There's definitely a lot of interesting sounds, lots of hard hitting breakdowns, particular in Delta. That the
Yeah,
remember
dude.
that breakdown caught me by surprise there.
Yeah, we've got a history of you'll find that. Are you a gamer? Do you play video games a lot?
For the most, I play a few of them.
Here and there. I don't know if any of your viewers might know what BioShock is. It was a video game franchise, of course. Yeah, it was that we like everyone in the band loved BioShock. You know, no matter how much of a gamer each of us was, like everyone was drawn to that game and that franchise and those themes. And you'll find that a lot of our old stuff that was, pre-interconnect was like actually had a lot of themes surrounding BioShock. That song Delta was the only one that carried over that kind of history of our history before interconnect. Was we used to like write songs about BioShock because we thought the game was friggin' awesome. So Delta was the name. It's been so long since I played it, but I believe it was the name of one of the Big Daddy characters that you played in 2 or something like that. And if you go back and read the lyrics, if you played BioShock 2 at all, it'll be like, oh, okay, like I kind of get it now. So
okay, that makes sense because that game in particular, I probably played halfway through BioShock 2, and then I just never finished it. But
they say it's the worst one of the 3. They say that one's the least favorable one. 1 is just friggin' awesome, and then Infinite was, I thought, very cool. But like I remember when I first played it to completion, my mind was blown. I was like, I don't even know what I just saw. Like I feel like I need to write a paper about this or something. So
exactly. Well, funny enough, I actually used BioShock references in a paper I wrote in community college.
No way. That's sweet, dude. What was the paper about?
It was about because the first BioShock had a lot of like critiques of like Ayn Rand, objectivism, like her political philosophy, parts of like libertarianism. And we're talking about like me and my friend Owen, who is part of Jam Sesh. But he does more of the posting stuff. He's never joined the podcast. We kind of had to have like a live debate and like a 10-page paper on like the pros and cons of objectivism. So I did 4, he did against, and then I used BioShock. Like there's a few articles about how they critiqued it, and then I was explaining why the critique was wrong. It was a really silly but fun way to write about a paper. So
dude, it's a workout, right? You're exercising your brain, thinking about these things politically and philosophy. I mean, that's why, I love playing the game so much, because it introduced ideas that my feeble mind couldn't even comprehend at the time. I was like, what is this? What are we talking about? Slaves, men? What does it mean to obey? It's like, whoa, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of very just like high yielding questions that you wouldn't really expect when playing something that you're supposed to sometimes enjoy without thought. But there's lots of interesting things in that. And also there was the last song, Yggdrasil. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay.
Yeah, Yggdrasil. It's like a Norse tree or something like that.
Yeah. Is there like any because I feel like there was a anime or 2 that referenced it. I wasn't sure if there was maybe like, was it just like, I guess, the sacred tree aspect that like just of like itself, or was there like a specific inspiration from like a movie or something that I guess maybe inspired that song?
Yeah, good question. Like I said, the album's a mess, right? So do you remember how like old Devil Wears Prada material, they would name their songs like really stupid stuff, or like some long sentence that was just completely unnecessary, and you forgot what it was as soon as you heard it, but you remember the song. It was almost, I don't want to say it was that, but it was just like, what are some cool stuff, some cool imagery? And I was reading about this tree, that supposedly it's again, the last time I even researched this was probably when I was writing the song, but it's supposedly it's a it's a tree in Norse mythology that like connects all the 9 worlds or something like that. So
Yeah.
it kind of relates back to the theme of interconnect, where despite it being as a mess as it is all connected by the same thing, like our motivation to like be together as friends and to write music and to write things that we're learning about. I was speaking a moment ago about how playing BioShock like revealed new things to me and new thoughts. And like, you'll notice as you go back and look at Blame the Season lyrics, like for an 18-year-old kid, like, those lyrics are, I don't want to say pretty sophisticated, but I'm trying to be deep on purpose, and I'm trying to be introspective. And it's almost like you're reading a book that's too, it's too wordy. There's so much there, but I was an angsty kid trying to get stuff out, and I was feeling things after these experiences. And really Yggdrasil is just tying it up like, hey, we all do this. We all feel this, this want to understand, this want to, make sense of things. It's part of the human condition. It's part of, what is the meaning of life? So I think that theme connected with what I thought the tree of the Yggdrasil tree was doing. So, I think that's kind of where that comes from. It wasn't anything connected to a movie. It was just like being thematic and dramatic and all kinds of stuff. So.
Okay, that's cool. That's really interesting. The reason why I asked if it's connected to like a movie or a show or something is because I'm pretty sure I might have been swore online, maybe Overlord. There's an anime or two that reference. There's quite a few that have referenced that. I feel like just because it is a like the word, if you know it, you now know it. So
yeah, it's a popular object. Yeah, it's a commonly referenced object because it's cool. Yeah, so now we joined that club, the Yggdrasil club.
There you go. There's one question. I am still somewhat of a musical novice, and there was an interesting part in Chimera around maybe the 2-minute mark. It's like there was a xylophone. Was there a xylophone?
It's probably a bell sound. Yeah, it was probably some interesting.
Sound. Okay.
It might have been the chromatic walk up where we were like, and then like we just kind of put in the background some bells or something like that. Maybe that's what you heard.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Okay.
It's a very unique sound, not heard anywhere else on that album. So I think I was like, you're sitting there and I was like, 2 minutes. How am I supposed to know? And then as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. So.
See, the 2-minute mark is what's making me remember, because I was listening to it earlier on today, and so I made this question. I was like, what is that? What's that sound?
Yeah. What is that? Yeah.
I'm not sure what this is. I have to ask about it. So now I know.
So, yeah, we were just clicking through presets, and I was like, sure, that one.
It worked. Definitely sounded good. So any interesting stories from when y'all did play live shows? Like any I don't know, just anything interesting, memorable at all during it?
Oh yeah, we had to stop playing once. I think we had to stop our show entirely because we played the opening of Sad But True by Metallica, and there were so many people getting hurt and so many fights that it was just like, hey, we got to like stop playing. It was so crazy. If I remember that story correctly. Yeah, I mean, like they were like, hey, you guys got to stop, and it was just because we opened with a Metallica song. It was really funny. And sad. I mean, people got hurt, but another was we played a lot of the interesting stories were mostly covers, like we played this cover and people freaked out. Some of the covers we played was played a Good Charlotte song once, Anthem. We played Anthem, and then we also played Linkin Park. I'm blanking on the tune that we played. Dang, I can't remember. It's amazing. It's amazing what law school will do to you. You'll forget some of the happiest moments of your entire life. Yeah, we played For Today cover one time, and that was cool. Devastator, I think, was the name of the song.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, we did a number of things. That was really fun. I have to say that the highlight for me was probably just our CD release show, because that felt like, whoa, like we're headlining. Like that was so cool to like roll up to Shaka's at Virginia Beach, which is closed now, unfortunately, but to see our name like Blame the Season CD release, it was like, oh man, that's so cool. Like, maybe it's not that interesting to someone who's like played Warped Tour or huge crowds of people, but come on, we were like seniors in high school, and we were like, this is so sweet, man. This is awesome. And we had CDs and we were selling them. It was a really, really good time. So those memories stick out to me. The ones where I felt like, this is like what it feels to be a rock star on a minor level, on a smaller scale degree. No musical pun intended. but yeah, those ring true. It was nice to, we were talking about the song Delta a second ago. It was nice to see people know the words. That was crazy for me to like, how you go to a show and the guy like gives the microphone out and you're jumping up and grabbing it. You're like, I know the words. Like people were doing that. I was like, this is so cool. So, that would be a dream of mine, is to play those tunes again and for have, people to be like, wow, I remember this song back in 2013, this song slapped or whatever. So, but yeah, those are the memories that I have.
Nice. Yeah, when you mentioned Chakas, I definitely felt a little bit sad hearing that too, because I definitely missed that place. I have seen a lot of people get hurt there. It's definitely a great venue to.
For sure. Do you remember Peppermint Beach Club? Gotcha. That was maybe. Yeah, that was fun too, that place. But had a lot of interesting bands come there. But during my time, I didn't go there too much, just a handful of times before it shut down. I didn't know if that was before your time of going to shows or not, but I don't remember when it shut down.
Yeah, most shows I went to probably since like 2015. I mostly went to Norva and Chaco's and Canal Club in Richmond. Those are the only venues I've been to, but there's a few. I might be going to a couple at the Red House at Chesapeake.
Okay, never been there.
Yeah, we just recorded with the vocalist of Born Anew, like a metalcore band, like hardcore sound, and they love playing at the Rip House. A lot of like Virginia Beach hardcore scene goes there. Pretty much they like it because Virginia scene can mosh pretty hard. I was fully correct.
Yeah.
There's pretty heavy moshes here, so that's pretty good. Yeah, pretty stuff with that.
And I don't know what your opinion is on moshing generally. I feel like a good amount of it. I mean, it was fun. I did it too, right? We all jumped in the pit at some point, but I feel like it hurt the scene a lot too. I saw a number of instances where people were there just to like have fun and see bands, and they got the crap kicked out of them just by some dudes who, thought they were something. So it was just a shame to see like people excited about music and to have that shut down by physical violence. It was like, okay, but there was also moments that I saw where people were in there, for lack of a better term, dancing to some respect, right? Hardcore dancing. And, if you get hit, you pick the guy up and it's like, oh, sweet. You dap the guy up and just, that was awesome. I got kicked in the mouth. I lost a tooth or whatever. I got to go see the dentist next Tuesday. But like everyone had a good time at the show. So, I've seen instances of that as well. So it's a double-edged sword, I've seen good and bad things happen in the pit.
Yeah, I definitely think it also depends on like the bands that are there. Like when I was
yes, absolutely.
I saw Varial's horror band, and I just saw a guard or one of the security guards just walk into the pit and pick up a guy and carry him outside. I was like, all right, the security guard's wearing a Punisher shirt. I'm like, all right, sweet, that guy's out of there. And the song that they were playing was about to have a breakdown where they just said violence. And then people were supposed to like mosh pretty heavily. This guy was going a little bit too far, so they're like, "All right, take it outside." I went to a volume show in Richmond, and guy got his eye taken out of his head supposedly, and supposedly got it like got back. Yeah, we were wondering what was happening because
his eye came out of his socket.
Yeah, so that's what we were told. Like, we're kind of looking over, like someone was holding it like this, like Hopkins, like blood. We're just kind of like, what? And supposedly, like. I don't know if it was proper that supposedly he came back into the show. Like I thought I saw the guy again in there, and it looked like same person. Or there was an indication because like a eye thing on his like a little patch or something. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I like the energy that you're back, but I hope you're okay. But
my gosh, yeah. Oh my goodness. That's horrifying. I hope that's why, dude, I had to quit because I was like, there's way too much of a liability here. Like I'm about to go to music school. I got to play guitar. What if I break a wrist? What if I break a finger? It was just like becoming a financial decision at that point. I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to get hurt. So,
yeah, I've never been big into moshing. I'll maybe go into a circle pit. I won't throw hands the pit. Like you were saying before, there are people who will crowd kill, like they'll start their own little mini pit besides the big pit, which is, I feel like depending what it is, okay, except when you're like running into like high school kids, because sometimes they go to those shows, it's just something that's like look for the weakest link sometimes into those people and just ram into them.
I
feel like there's also like a lot of like beautiful like This big guys walk up and be like, "All right, this is where the pit is." Like you'll hold, like I will generally stay like on the end, but like Owen, he's tall but he's skinny, and I'll let him stand behind me because he'll get pushed
Mhm.
easier than I will. He weighs
Yeah,
about
yeah.
80 pounds less than me, so he'll stand behind me.
Right. Sometimes I like to watch. Like I'll stand at the pit and I'll like hold my fist out like that, or I'll kick someone that's getting a little too close. But
Oh yeah,
I want
oh
no
yeah,
part of it anymore. I'm pretty
oh
much
yeah,
done. I'm in
oh yeah,
retirement.
oh yeah. I feel that. I feel like for me, being in law school definitely has calmed me down enough to be like, well, I'm still the guy that's in the corner that's headbanging way too hard, but I promised a couple of bands that we had on here before that I'll mosh with them. So I will for that. I won't go too long. I didn't give them a time limit. So I'll go in,
Okay.
attempt a spin kick, probably pull my hamstring and limp out. And I'll be good to go. That won't
Make sure
affect
you
my spin.
stretch.
Yeah, I'll
You want to
try.
stretch.
There's one takeaway from this episode. Stretch before you mosh, okay?
Oh
There you
yeah,
go.
that's I mean that's real. Before any work really, but especially in the pit.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, do you have like ever considered potentially re-recording Interconnect?
Oh, it's so weird that you said that. Oh my gosh, I thought of that. So not to spoil any future plans or anything like that. I don't think that's in the works right now, but it was a light bulb moment for me that I was like listening to it. And of course, just as I said, the songwriting and the sounds were a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the production techniques that we used as well was a little bit too colored for my taste. Like I can hear some moments where I was like, this is a little too compressed, or this is louder than that. We didn't spend enough time chiseling it, so to speak. And I thought, man, what would like a remastered interconnect sound like, or and like do it again, but with my new vocal techniques and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I have thought about it. It's so weird that you said that, because I thought no one will ever think about this but me, because it's an album that I wrote. But I have, that has gone through my mind once or twice, to do a remastered interconnect. Of course, I would need to get Mike on board with it and say, hey, maybe this is something we should do, or maybe one of those tunes re-record. If we can't do the whole thing, then maybe one, or even redo a song that was pre-interconnect, right? Something that not everybody heard, and then we just redo it and make it better. That has run through my mind, but of course, it's not like interconnect was a complete banger, right? It's not like it was chart topping anything, and that people would love to hear a remastered interconnect. So it's just a question of whether it's worth our time to go back and do that for our nostalgic sake, or do we just press forward and show people, hey, here's what we can do now. We're much better than that. Here's, of course, debatable, questionable. People like to interconnect more than the new stuff, but I think that we're better now for, the experiences and the practice that we've done since interconnect released. So that's a thought. I have thought about that.
All right. So what what maybe inspired the change in sound? I know that y'all, I mean, in the amount of years of like before both releases between Interconnect and Silhouette, there's kind of grew as a person, I'm assuming, in that many years you did. But I guess kind of like what inspired the sound, maybe some new artists, maybe just life changes, yeah, anything like that.
Yeah. Silhouette is interesting, man. Like I said, Mike, who's the other part of the brain for Blame the Season, he's one of my best friends. We've been doing music for a long time together. He plays guitar. He contacted me, I think, when I was starting law school in 2017, and was like, hey, would you mind doing some vocals for some miscellaneous tracks that I was writing? And these tracks eventually became the tracks that you'll hear on Silhouette. But we didn't know that when we first started out on this venture. The true home stretch was like right when I was about to finish law school. I had written enough lyrical material and sketched enough ideas for melodies, rhythms, how I was practicing my vocals, that I felt comfortable tracking things. And right before I started tracking, I was like, Mike, hear me out. I was like, what if this was Blame the Season stuff? Like, what if we tailored it and like changed a couple things, and I just screamed a little bit more often than I would. than what I was planning. Originally, there was a whole lot more singing on the album, but I was like, I feel like I need to scream. And I talk a little bit about this in one of my podcast episodes where I felt like, screaming was like a part of the way that I like to perform and the way that I like to communicate ideas. So I was like, dude, this should be it. Like, we should just do like a quick 3-track thing and make it Blame the Season, like put a Blame the Season coat of paint on it, so to speak. So that's why there's such a drastic change in sound. It was almost as if, it was Blame the Season in the sense that it was Mike and I working on the same tracks together, but it was not written out with the intent to be Blame the Season material at first, right? It had to be tailored into that. So like I said before, I was preparing and I finally had enough ideas that I was like, okay, this is a go. Like, I can do this. So I knocked it all out, all the recording, about a week before I started studying for the bar exam. So that's about how long it took to, get all this squared away. It was about 3 years. And, we took risks, right, with the sound, and, we hinted at some of the old sounds. It's not often on Silhouette that I do my low growls, right, that I consistently did an interconnect, because I felt that my new technique of screaming, I thought that better exemplified both feelings and timbres that I wanted to communicate. So yeah. And now I will say, we are working on something else, right? So I won't say anything more than that, but you have certainly not heard the last of Blame the Season. So I'm super excited about, the stuff that we're incubating right now, so to speak.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. It's actually very interesting that started off as like a different project before kind of being tapered to more Blame the Season sound. So I know we discussed it before, especially like in terms of like you're singing your clean range, especially shown in Human. That's pretty up there. I was very impressed when I heard that.
I think a lot of people at this point, maybe if they've heard Blame the Season at all, anybody who might be listening to this, I feel like they're listening to my voice and they're like, there's no way that's the same guy, So it's like, so I take a little bit of, I don't want to say pride, but I think it's funny where I'm like, haha, yeah, it is me, haha, lol. But it's, on the album, I'm like freaking out. So I take a little bit of gratuitous pleasure in that. But like I said, the techniques are changing and I'm trying to experiment with some of my harsh and clean tones. And I was really excited about some of the high notes that I was able to hit, while recording, a week before the bar exam. I had a lot to scream about. So I was excited.
Oh, there you go. Definitely understandable. So, how did law school itself, or on that topic, I guess, affect like music production, music playing, that part in general? Because having done just my first year, I didn't have much of time for anything at all besides studying and eating and sometimes sleeping. So, yeah, how did that affect kind of music overall for you?
Dude, so to be honest with you, I never really studied growing up. School was challenging, but it was never challenging to the point that I was struggling, right? I like glided through everything. And that was the case all the way up through music school. I mean, my GPA was always pretty high. I never had to worry about dropping out of anything, or, I just did well in school. And of course, being in music school, it's like, oh man, sweet. Like my grade is being good at my passion. My grade is playing guitar for performance. So that was awesome. Law school was the first time my pride was put into check, right, so to speak. And that experience was the first time I actually had to learn how to study well. I had to look up and read, like, what are some study techniques? Because I'm not doing well right now, in order to achieve and catch up. Now, I wasn't behind, I wasn't like low in my class or anything, but I was like, dang, this is hard. I'm struggling. With that being said, that experience gave me a new perspective on the things that I already do, right? I thought, man, what if I applied, some of that same tenacity, some of that same kind of equivocating the study techniques of law school and then applying it to, my scales, right? Guitar scales, my arpeggios, or, what if I started listening to audio like that, right? And I paid attention to how things actually sound. And some of the ways that I was discussing earlier, like, hey, Blame the Season, I noticed some things. And that's because my ear is a little bit more fine-tuned because of the work that I've been doing in that regard. So now I'm like applying these, the hardcore study principles to, you know, almost trying to recoup some of the studying that I didn't do for being, I don't want to say naturally good, but for really kind of just understanding what I was supposed to be doing in music, both production and performance. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it was like. Well, I guess now I'll kind of pivot and talk about more about the time thing, because that is a real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Law school, I feel like there's no way to explain it to somebody in a way that doesn't sound generic, like, oh God, I'm so busy. In fact, that used to piss me off. Like I really hated law students, right? Because it was just like, it was so hard to hang out with them and to connect with them, because they were always like, I've got to do this. I'm too busy. I'm too bogged down. I got to learn the law or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, so do I, but we can maybe hang out or and I knew other musicians too. It felt bad to watch them not be able to practice because of the work that we were doing in law school, right? I would say for me, 1L year was hard, but it was the least amount of time that I put into law school, which kind of clarifies my rank a little bit when I look back on it. I really was just like not sure if I wanted to be there. I did not apply myself as much as I probably should have my first year, and I made the cut, obviously, but it was just one of those things where it wasn't something I had decided on until after that year. I was like, okay, I made it through the first year. I want to keep doing this. And that's when I applied myself a bit more and I made better grades, and everything started clearing up. But with that being said, I had to schedule time, right? I make a very detailed explanation of this experience in a vlog that I put out about Torei's Sun and Moon album. I talk specifically about, hey, there's a lot of things we got to do as musicians. We have to be virtuosic. We have to have the knowledge, we have to have fun, right? We have to be able to practice and perform, and we need time for that stuff. And the way that we would study as law students, hey, I need time for real property, right? I need time for contracts. I need time for legal writing, which is everyone's favorite class. So, that's a real thing. So it definitely was a challenge to do all these things at once. And the bottom line is you can't do everything. But it's no different than cleaning your room, right? Like you might think like, oh, I need 7 hours to clean my room. When in reality, you could get a lot more done if you just like 30 minutes a day, you just like pick a spot and go for it. That's what I had to adjust to, especially now as an attorney, same exact thing. Like I have to select wisely and focus and be like, all right, well, I've got a limited time today. I'm going to work on the melodic minor scale exclusively, right? And then do something another day. But that's, long-winded answer, but that's a summary of kind of how law school warped not only my time, but my understanding of how to practice, how to still do music, generally speaking.
No, that definitely makes sense to me as a law student in terms
right?
of, I guess, how even affected, or when it comes to the cleaning the room part, that definitely makes sense to me. It's not like I want to make sure I can maximize my time and everything I do, because law school really kind of shows that like time is finite. So you kind of use it while you can. So
do you know the Pomodoro technique?
The Pomodoro? No.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, most people know the technique, but maybe not what it's called. It's like, you study really hard, or you do that thing for 25 minutes, like nothing else but that thing. And then 5 minutes, no matter what train of thought you're in, just break away and do whatever you want for 5 minutes.
Oh, I know the technique. Yeah.
And just like, zone out for 5 minutes and then come back in and focus hardcore. That was revolutionary to me for the bar exam, studying for that, because I was drained. That was such a marathon. But that lessened the blow is the knowledge of, okay, I get a break no matter where I'm at, and then I can go do something, so that was helpful.
No, definitely makes sense. Because I've had that during like final studying. I've had friends. Sometimes we would just not study together, but study in the same room. We'd she would do that same concept where I would just kind of go until I just couldn't, and then I would take like a little break. But it's definitely interesting. I might try that, especially for evidence. So it'll
Oh
be
yeah,
fun hearing
dude.
about that
Yeah,
process.
yeah. Have fun with that.
Yeah, everybody's hyping that up for me. So you mentioned Sun and Moon earlier, so congrats on that release.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, how do you feel about it? Just yeah, mention about it, maybe the different sounds between the two, because they definitely have their own distinct sound, but I'm definitely a fan of both of them. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Torei is interesting. Like I said before, it's my outlet for compositional songwriting, right? The first album, Hello, was and I give a little bit more background in this in the vlog about Sun and Moon, but it was a proof of concept, right? It was proof of concept of sounds that I was interested in developing, plain and simple. Because I finally understood that, with Blame the Season being on hiatus and at the time we were working on Silhouette, and doing that again reminded me of how much I really love that process of seeing a song come to fruition and then releasing that. That's like a hit for me. I love that. I finally understood that I will not be as happy as I want to be unless I am on a somewhat regular basis, writing and releasing music. So Torei is now my outlet for that. It's what I call compositional songwriting. It's a chance to compress my my composer prowess into a songwriting entity, right? Into a more radio friendly format. With that being said, do I dare say that album is a mess too, because it's all over the place? I don't know. But, given how diverse Hello was, it was like, okay, well, where is it going to go at this point? What could I do? And then someone whom, before I even knew, right, how long it was going to be, how heavy, how soft, or anything like that, I was just overwhelmed. I had a bunch of demos. I was like, I don't even know what I want to do with this thing. Like, what is next for Torei? And someone whom I really respect and admire, whose opinion I value, said, hey, why don't you do like 2 albums? Why don't you do like an A sides, B sides type of thing? And that was like, oh my God, of course that has to be what it is, because I really, couldn't decide. I was just stuck and I wasn't moving forward. I wasn't motivated to write until I heard that. And I was like, man, like that's what Torei is. It's like freedom for me. I don't have to lock myself in a box, especially for what I was doing. Right. I'm not trying to match Taylor Swift. Right. So it's like, there's no expectations for me right now. So I can do what I want. With that being said, Sun and Moon was a huge project, given how diverse Hello was, like I said, it could have gone anywhere, but the problem was I wanted it to go everywhere. And I suspect that motivation of wanting to do everything, it's interesting, right? But it's also detrimental. But I do think that is a guiding mantra of Torei. I almost want people to be expecting and thinking, oh, Torei is coming out with something new. I wonder what instrument or style he experimented with this time, right? So focusing a little bit more on Sun and Moon. Yes, Sun's heavy, right? There's some moments in there where it kind of echoes, my roots a little bit. And then Moon is a little bit more emotional, a little bit more, I don't know if I'd say radio friendly, but probably more people would be interested in that one. Just given, the state of the music industry and like electronic music. But gotten a lot of good feedback about both. I'm really proud of them. And I'm just excited to see kind of where everything heads after that. If you only knew, Kyle, what I was thinking about right now for the next album, it's like, there's a number of ways it could go, just like last time. And I've got some sketches and I've got some things written out, but, I wish I could tell you more, but I feast on that element of surprise. Like I really need people to be like, what the heck is he going to do? For me to be satisfied when I release it. So is that bad or good for Torei? I don't know. I also don't care right now because, I have a day job and I'm just, writing for me. Right. And hopefully someone finds their own meaning and their own value towards the stuff that I'm doing.
It's actually pretty incredible that you are releasing a pretty good amount of music, a lot of music, with having a pretty demanding job as an attorney. No matter what type of attorney you are, that is a really demanding job. So kudos for that, because that's pretty fantastic. I can't imagine that
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. And I know you mentioned earlier about how Sun was definitely the heavier of the two new releases, and I definitely saw that in Okami Neon. Okami Neon. I
Hmm.
don't know if I'm saying that right. I remember when I was
Yeah.
listening to that, and I was like, I was listening to, I guess I don't remember how far I was in. I was like, is that? I was like, okay, is this a little Genty? I'm like, okay, is this a breakdown? Is this what's happening right now? Because I like that and a lot more like and like more softer music outside of like the metalcore scene, deathcore stuff like that. And I'll listen to like stuff like this, which is just mostly like not mostly instrumental always, but very much his own sound, not made to be just like face punching heavy, just very articulate in its sound and everything. It reminds me a lot of the song by Claudio's Horse, That's That Way. They're a
Hmm.
prog metal group. But I remember when that hit, I had goosebumps, and I was like, okay. I was like, because I listened to the entirety of the song before for like 25 minutes or so. I was like, okay, I'm feeling this. I'm liking this. And then I'm like, am I headbanging right now? Is this what's happening right now? Okay. I was like, I wasn't expecting to be headbanging this hard. So
Yeah.
yeah, so kudos on that. So like,
Thanks.
was there like different mindsets between the two albums? Like I know you said you had kind of had
Mm.
like a bunch of demos before you split them up. But I guess how did you like decide for that? Like, is there like maybe like I don't know, like different parts of you for each one? Maybe if it's like a so
Hmm. Yeah, the duality of man.
yeah.
Yeah, I really just prayed and threw darts, honestly. I mean, uh, in a way that Interconnect was connected by the motivations and sounds of the time. And that's how I kind of wrapped it all up at the end of the album. You know, kind of similar for Sun and Moon, except that there is a little bit more structure. Um, my writing process generally is almost never constant in how I start, but I can say that every song is about something or someone. Um, I sketch things until I get to attach my own story to a song. Listening back, I'm like, that makes me feel this. And then I'm charged by that. Like, that's my motivation for finishing the tune. And then I write, the song with that story in mind, regardless if there are any lyrics or anything like that. And just as a little Easter egg, what if I told you that there actually are lyrics for almost every song? And I just have not, I didn't put vocals in there. Isn't that interesting? Right. So when will those make an appearance? Right. In my next album, the album after that, um, but you might say, why would it show up later? It's because part of the um the project for Sun and Moon was to reintroduce and reharmonize and bring back other melodies. I'm sure you noticed while listening through a melody that you're like, wait a minute, I think I've heard this somewhere before. Oh yeah, wait a minute, that was in that song. Or wait, that was in the album Hello.
Mhm.
That was so purposeful. And the more you listen to it, I think the more you'll find stuff. And that was part of, I wanted it to almost be a scavenger hunt, for people who maybe didn't notice it, it would be fun material. But for people who were truly listening and tuning in, they would like hear something new and interesting every single time they went back to go listen to it. Um, so that was a challenge, man. It was a challenge to keep on reusing melodies and be like, how do I look like I can write new stuff, But a part of Torei stuff is thematic,
Mhm.
motif oriented, how, I mean, think about Star Wars, dude, right? Like think about Yoda's theme, think about the Force theme. Like we all love that. We all love when it comes back into, given the state of Star Wars right now. I know it's a controversial topic for some people, but the music, second to none, right? Um, well, debatable, but I mean, it's very important to the feel of Star Wars, the vibe of it. And that's kind of how I feel about Torei is I want it to be like an experience that people keep on having. Something where it's like, not that Torei is going to become its own movie, its own anime franchise or anything like that. Um, but I mean, think about the songs that you're nostalgic for, right? Imagine if you heard a reharmonization of that, or like you said before, what about a remaster of Interconnect? I can certainly tell you that I would not keep things the same, 100% the same. I might change a chord, right, for fun. I might do a rhythm differently. I might make a part that was super loud, kind of quiet, and just just have it be a more structured mess, if you will, something that is, really fun, but also like is guided with a little bit more intentionality. So yeah, Sun and Moon was guided by both, two parts of me that I wanted to express, two very different sounds, but also it was all like Yggdrasil, connected by these melodies and harmonies and sounds and things that I wanted to keep bringing back and be like, this is Torei. This is like the essence of it. Do you feel me? for lack of a better, question.
That actually what you mentioned earlier about a lot of the melodies and Sun and Moon kind of going back to Hello. I was going to ask you about that because I was kind of driving myself crazy the last few days just listening to it all and being like, okay, am I right in that this sounds very, very similar to portions of Hello? So now I'm glad to know that I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, it's all intentional. Yeah.
No, that's actually amazing. And also, so just to clarify, you said there are vocals over Sun and Moon that are
not vocals. There are lyrics that guided the melodies and stories of each song. Okay. I'm treating this. It's crazy. Sun and Moon is released, right? But there are things that will be connected to this album in the future that I've not yet shown people, right? Okay. That I've got in here that I'm planning so far ahead in the future. Imagine if you heard a song in 10 years, or maybe even less than that, that was the melody of one of the songs that you heard on Sun and Moon, but now there are words to it. You're going to sit there and go, were these always the words? Yeah. And I want you to have that, come to Jesus moment, wait, what do I know? What do I know to be true? So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Is Torei is a really fun entity, and I have not exposed all my secrets yet. So I get to just sit here and giggle like a child, while everyone gets to enjoy Sun and Moon for what it is, but what it can also evolve and become in the future. So it's, again, just having fun.
That's really interesting because I haven't heard of any musical artists kind of go about music in that way. I guess in terms of the way I could phrase it as it's not the same, but I guess releasing an instrumental version of an album after they release a normal album, it's okay, I would like an instrumental version of this, but because there are I do get certain feelings, certain emotions when I am listening to Sun, when I am listening to Moon. I feel like a few books I'm reading at one time, I can't read one book when I'm reading Sun. I have to read a certain book and read next because the I guess the emotions match what I'm reading. But I feel like it will definitely change the way I guess I can look at it with vocals potentially being added on later on to songs I already know and I've listened to probably each a lot by now. That's really interesting because that definitely adds a different dynamic that you were saying were the words always there, because even then it'll make it. I'm very curious as to how it'll people will remember the lyrics right away. If there's an instant hit of nostalgia listening to the song, but hearing the lyrics for the first time, that's pretty smart right there, man.
Yeah, dude, you're hitting the nail on the head. That's what I'm going for. In fact, one of my good friends, Patrick, who actually is responsible for all the imagery for Sun and Moon, dude. Okay. Huge thanks to that guy. I love that guy so much. He helped me from the very beginning of kind of thinking about Torei as what do you want this to be? And I remember saying the same things to him that I just said to you, and watching that light go off oh my God, wait, not a lot of people are thinking about songwriting music in this context. And there are conceptual albums, right? There are albums like Coheed and Cambria, their whole shtick is hey, we're writing music that surrounds a world about a comic book that the singer's writing, right? So it's not the first time that someone's done this, but it's what appeals to me. It's there's a world here that I want to explore and keep on sharing with people. And I was how do I communicate that? And so Patrick was very integral in helping me understand, hey, this is what maybe it should look like. Here's how to integrate. Here's what I think about when I think about Torei. What are some of the vibes you're going for? And I mean, his methodical approach to it, the way he asked me questions and thought about things, like we were on the exact same page. Like we have a good way of communicating. So it was fun to kind of go through that experience with him. And as a little Easter egg, he started Blame the Season with me way back in 2010. So he's one of the original members. He played the first few shows actually. Yeah. So it was really cool to have him work on the newest Torei release in the visual department, and also music. He was super integral in at least helping me kind of shape the sound and saying maybe it should be like this, or give me feedback on mixes and stuff like that. And Mike did that as well. So, huge thanks to Mike for going through. Mike from Blame the Season, the guy that I was talking about earlier. I mean, they helped me out so much, two of my best friends, and they're like helping me shape, my sound, which is really, really cool. But, that reminds me is like, if you're ever confused about what melodies are in which songs, if you listen on Spotify, what platform did you listen on?
Apple Music.
Apple Music. Okay.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I wish Apple Music would do the same thing, because the canvases in Spotify are so cool. But there are canvases in Spotify that like play as you're listening to music. It's all like digital glitchy stuff that relates to the album art, with some picture flashes, which actually some of them are pictures that I took and relate to the stories of the songs. And they flash very briefly, like you almost don't even know what it is. But also the words flash up on the screen as well. Not the lyrics, but more so the melody of this, right? The melody of sun, melody of moon, this, that, and the other. Those flash while you're listening. So you're like, oh, wait, that melody's in here. Let me listen for that and see if I could find it. So.
Oh, that's pretty great. I'll definitely have like a Spotify account that I never use, but I'll definitely listen through and check that out, because I definitely love, like, because you can listen to music, but I feel like what makes like a lot of this special is just experiencing music is way more than just listening and just hearing it. You want to kind of deep dive into it. That's why I like how you're talking about, because I definitely feel like the album art for both of them very much set the mood for each album. That's something that I always really pay attention to when it comes to music. It's just kind of like the album art is always generally your first impression if you're just getting accustomed to a new band. Like you'll just you'll just look at it and be like, okay, this is interesting. If it's like death metal, I won't really pay attention to it just because it's normally something vulgar, guts are everywhere, maybe a rat's in the corner. Who knows what's there? But like maybe something like especially when it comes to like maybe prog rock or prog metal, there's always some very interesting just artistic aspects of it that often can play a little bit of a role, but that definitely fits it very well, because that's something that I'll be listening sometimes, like long drives I'll listen to something. So like I forgot which long drive that I had Hello on for, and just kind of like I think it was raining when I was playing it. So like having that on, just looking at my car, I'd be like, okay, oh, look at this picture. It's just fitting the mood very well.
Yeah. I totally believe that, man. The entire album is a package, and like the visuals are just as important. I think that I really believe that Sun and Moon would have done less well just if I had different visuals, right? Like I just really feel like Patrick was the lock, or the key to my lock in that sense, and that he really helped me say like, hey, how do we communicate this visually to someone who hasn't heard the music yet, the sounds, but will look at it and be like, wait, I feel like I'm drawn to this. And then they'll listen to it and be like, I knew I was drawn to this for some reason. Like there's something that he's trying to tell me here. So yeah, there's a lot of thought that went into this album. Each question I think is kind of revealing that to both you, your co-host, and your listeners, and whoever kind of checks me out generally.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of concludes, I guess, maybe all the music related stuff that I questions. Do you have anything else regarding like your music in particular that you'd want to kind of elaborate? Maybe something I didn't touch on that's kind of on your mind.
Yeah, sure. It's less about maybe music that I'm writing and more about what my focus is right now. I make a joke at the end of my vlog video where one of the most common, I don't know if I would say critique, but people kept saying, oh, Hello was very cool. I just wish it was longer, So what is that? Does that mean the music was good, there's not enough of it? Or does that mean it felt like you didn't complete the picture yet? I feel like both are valid perspectives on that comment. And I made a joke at the end of the vlog where I was like, well, now I like pretended to cock a shotgun and I shot both, albums on screen. It's really stupid, but I had fun making it. But I mean, that's the point, is I released 18 songs, right, for people to listen to and to kind of digest. So what is, and then we released Blame the Season, in August last year. So it's like, what am I doing now? Right. And I already hinted, I'm doing a little bit of Blame the Season stuff that's kind of on the back burner because of the new transition in my job. And Mike's going through some transitions as well. We're both just trying to adjust to new things in our life. But it is coming, I assure you. But what's next for me? And right now, instead of writing, I'm more so focusing on helping others hone their writing skills, and also working personally on my technique and pedagogy, right? Like I talked about earlier, you can't do everything at once. So now that I have the time, I'm not producing Sun and Moon anymore. I'm working on Blame the Season sparingly. So I've got a little bit more time to myself. And of course, given my job as an attorney, my time is limited. And a lot of the things that I produce typically is in a controlled environment, right? And maybe not all in the same week, right? Like Sun and Moon was like a year-long affair, perhaps even longer, given my demos and how I was thinking about things. But I'll be honest with you, I probably right now, if you were to ask me to play that album front to back, I couldn't do it. I forgot some of it because I'm like doing things in my own personal life. I would have to brush up on that material. And like I said before, it's in a controlled environment. I get as many takes as time permits, and I get to tweak things to my heart's content. I would be in a little bit of a pickle if I had to do a Torei show, a live album from front to back. Yeah. And, like I said, I would have to brush up on all that material and make sure my chops were as good as I wanted them to be for that performance. So the two things I'm doing right now are helping other people write stuff. I'm helping my buddy Jonathan, who you probably know. Oh yeah, you know him. Yeah,
I know John.
Turner. Yeah. So him and I are writing a song together. Actually, he's writing a song. I'm just like putting it in, he's like singing in my ear, and I'm like, okay, that's what I think this would sound like. And I'm just like translating his ideas. And that's coming out pretty soon. It's a cool little metal song that he's basically, it's all Jonathan. I'm just helping him produce it for fun. Because it was something we always wanted to do in law school, but just never had the time for. And then another person that from our law school actually might be featured on the next Blame the Season song. So we'll see about that.
Okay.
Yeah. More on that later. But yeah, so I'm helping him, and I'm also practicing a lot. So I'm really diving into guitar right now, and fusion playing and my technique, and legato and theory, and thinking about fretboard visualization, because I really just want to be, I just want to have the chops that I want to bring Torei and Blame the Season to the next level, for people to be like, wow, like this is a competent player. And maybe they already think that, but there's always room to grow, right? You're never perfect. And, if it's weird, there's a saying, if you're the best person in your band, you're in the wrong band. I'm the only person in Torei, right? So I really, really need to look at other people for guidance, and other instructors, other improvisers that I really respect and value, in order to bring my music to a place that I want it to be, So that's what I'm doing right now. Apart from writing, is I'm working on myself. I'm helping other people.
No, that's great.
I also give lessons, by the way, in all these things that I'm talking about, particularly guitar.
Okay.
I don't want to toot my own horn. I think I'm a pretty good teacher, and I love teaching. I love instructing guitar. I just love the instrument. So if people are interested after they hear Torei, I could do Skype lessons as well, Zoom lessons, what have you. So.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to link whatever below when we post this. So one last question that we've asked every single guest, mostly because the mess that COVID left in the music industry and touring and shows as a whole, that caused every single metal fan to essentially have a year of no shows, that makes them insanely sad. Are there any shows that you plan on attending, especially because there's probably been so many that's announced that's between the end of August and like maybe March? There's probably a show in this area like every 2 weeks.
Yeah, man, it did. Yeah, man, that just makes me think like for metal music, like mosh pits were like a COVID petri dish, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, a nightmare. Um, I don't know, man. I know I see stuff on Facebook and on
Mhm.
Instagram of bands posting stuff. I thought I saw Devil Wears Prada might have been coming nearby. I love Devil Wears Prada. I kind of fell out of
Mhm.
touch with listening to them sometime after Dead Throne, but
Mhm.
like, that's my roots, right? Like I would always
Yeah.
go and see them if they came to town.
Mhm.
Um, and there was another band. Oh man, I saved these images on my phone, and I don't
Mhm.
know how far back that I saved them, but there really are shows that I'm thinking about going to because I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, like in October I'll be able to go to something like this.
Yeah, that's when
Um,
I plan on going to there's one show in October, like I don't know if you know Body Snatcher. Um
oh, sweet.
they're playing at is it, I don't remember, it might be local, it might be Richmond. I don't know, it's on a Thursday and I don't have classes on a Friday. So I'm like, okay, I can actually make this. So
That
it's
is
like
sweet, dude.
so
I
it's like
remember
a
not having classes on Friday. I was like, this is awesome.
yeah, so I'm excited for that because I can actually go to a few shows. I plan on hogging a couple of those too. So and then also there'll be like Kyle's first pit experience at a body snatcher show. So I'm like insanely nervous for that. It's like
Sure.
I'm getting
Yeah.
hurt there. There's lots of local ones too. I'll send you some after this because actually Limp Biscuit's playing in August with
Sweet.
with a progressive metalcore band by the name of Spirit Box that I've been
Oh yeah,
listening
yeah.
to for a
You told me about them,
while.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
when we were at Farmhouse or something.
I've listened to them for a while, but recently they just blew up so much. I think it may. I am theorizing partially because I don't like the new Architect stuff that they left a hole where Spirit Box is kind of filling, kind
Hmm.
of that same like somewhat like genty progressive metalcore sound that just kind of touches on a lot of different things, but they're kind of in their own like female fronted. That's a big part of them too, like with fierce vocals. So the fact that a progressive metalcore band and Limp Bizkit are playing at the same show, and I think it's just those two bands, is really interesting. I think they're already
Yeah.
sold out. That's at the Norva, so that's
Oh
crazy.
wow. Yeah, no, it might already be, to be honest.
Yeah, it's
Man,
sold
if
out like after the first hour.
I would love to have a female vocalist on a Blame the Season song. I think that would be so cool. Like that's what I'm talking about. That experimentation is something that I'm really interested in right now, featuring people and just messing around and just having fun with music. I believe Between the Buried and Me is coming soon. I'm not sure if that's already sold out,
Ooh,
but
ooh, yeah. I
that would be
think
fun.
saw
you know?
something from them. I know, like Dance Gavin Dance Animals as Leaders and Bill and Maya are coming on a show here. I think they
Whoa.
already sold. That was supposed to be announced a while ago, but that was already sold out. I think
Yikes. Mm.
there's there's quite a few shows. I know I have pictures of a lot of them. I will send you some because there's
Yeah,
even more
please
being
do.
announced. There's a lot that are going to be in Danville, Virginia, not like eastern portion, so that kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
either way, I'm just glad that shows are coming back and bands are able to actually do this kind of stuff. Able to get some
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of like releases of music recently. Lots of bands have been like, you know what, we're inside because of COVID. Let's just release albums. So,
Yeah, or live stream shows, right? That's been a huge
oh,
thing.
that's been
Saw
massive.
the August Burns Red Christmas live stream,
Mm-hmm.
and which is sweet, but I was like, again, it's just yeah, it's not the same. It was awesome, but it
Yeah.
was, I just wish I was there, right?
Yeah, it's not the same mosh in your living room. So, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
different there. So, yeah, that is all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to touch up on, or are we good?
Yeah, there is one thing I can't believe I neglected to mention like Crownsguard Studios as an
Oh
entity.
yeah.
Like that's kind of like that started when I was getting into law school.
Mm-hmm.
And that was originally that's kind of a lot to think about here, but that was my outlet before Torei was let me do some cool cover videos and stuff like
Okay.
that. That has not ceased either. I've got some cover videos planned. Really, man, I had a ton of stuff planned throughout law school, but man, you just know it wrecks you. Like, it wrecks your schedule for the fun, creative stuff you want to do. And the bar exam floored me, right? So I was like, so now I'm just rebounding now that I've found a more healthy approach to life, that I finally feel like I can start releasing these things on a regular basis. So I am going to do more Crownsguard stuff, like cover videos, especially. But I like want to do more of them. But the problem is like every time I do one, I like want it to be better than the one before. So I'm like, what can I do now with the green screen? But of course that means I got to set up the green screen. I got to film myself. So I think really at this point it's just, let me get some cool camera angles, and then, get some movement in there, and then make sure that the cover is really interesting. I think I should just focus on making the covers really cool and making the playthrough video pretty cool, rather than getting, a little too kooky with the visuals, I should say. That's not really my strong suit. So I should just focus on, what I know, and then crank out some good content. But that is coming. I would love to do another, when I first started Crownsguard, it was to be a compositional entity so that I could like showcase what I could do as a composer. I would love to maybe do an update of that. Like, here's some stuff I could do now. And you might say, oh, what the heck was Sun and Moon? Like, wasn't that it? Yeah. But like I said before, that was composer stuff compressed into a more radio friendly format. So I would like to do some orchestral stuff maybe. So who knows, I'm always thinking about what's the weirdest thing I could do that was so different from what I just did. So yes, Crownsguard is not done. That is my YouTube channel. I'd love if, you're interested, any of your viewers, who are listening, check it out. It might be your thing. You might see a cover that you like, or are drawn to one of the themes or pieces of media that I'm referencing. Go ahead and subscribe to that to never miss a video.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. We'll definitely link it all when we post this, and hopefully our viewers will give it a chance. I know that I've watched a couple of, I think, one or two covers on there, and I definitely enjoyed those. So
you'll enjoy the one I got planned coming up. You're gonna be like, this is sick.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like I know you enough that you'll be like, this would be tight. So
there we go. Sweet. Well, Trey, thank you very much for being on. It was a pleasure to have you, especially hearing all the updates, picking your mind on your writing process and kind of how all that goes. I think you were by far the most detailed out of anybody we've had on so far, which is a good thing, because I definitely, like, my brain was definitely jumping around like, whoa, I don't understand this, but he just explains it, so now I understand it. So there we go. So that was definitely great.
Am I by chance the only lawyer that you've had on the podcast?
I haven't asked anybody else. I want to assume yes.
Maybe that's what it is I just got to make sure, because at my job I'm counseling on a daily basis, and I have to make sure that I explain things very clearly. And I think that comes across not only in my music, but also just also how I talk about my music and how I talk about my process of stuff. I think it's the antithesis of, what did I say way back? Like, interconnect is a mess, right? And it is revealing, it is charming, yet revealing of what my maturity level was. And I feel like I'm developing that, so that's a compliment. I'll take that compliment. I appreciate that very much. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
So listen.